Welcome to another episode of Her Story. I'm Diana Bailey, Executive Director of the Maryland Women's Heritage Center. We have a great show for you today. Our guest today is Dr. Joanne Katz, who's done a lot of work with the public health in Baltimore and across the globe. Welcome back, and I'm here this afternoon with Dr. Joanne Katz. Congratulations on your induction to the Maryland Women's Hall of Fame. Must be quite exciting for you.
It's lovely. Really, it's a very lovely honor. Thank you.
How did this happen for you?
Well, I have a colleague who actually was inducted last year.
Oh.
And she and another mentor of mine together sort of said, we'd like to nominate you.
Nice.
And I had not heard about this before, but I think it's really great because I think it's nice to encourage women to take a role in society and to do the absolute best that they can do and to be a contributor.
Right, so we're very much about role models, and so it's wonderful that someone nominated her and then she's sort of again paying it forward.
Yeah, and I'm already thinking about the people I would like to nominate next.
That's wonderful, that's wonderful. And you know that the committee that we have is a very serious committee. They take their job very seriously.
Yes, I took a look at who they were, and it's.
So
I feel very honored to be selected by them.
You've earned it. So tell us a little bit about your history. Maybe where you started, how you decided you wanted to go into the medical field, any of those kinds of things.
Sure. So as you probably can tell from my accent, I was born and grew up in Cape Town, South Africa. And I have to say that I had a very good role model in my mother, who was a lawyer at that time when it was not very many women did law, and my grandmother, who really did not have an education but believed very strongly that women should be educated. And so I've always sort of kept that in my mind, you know, as I've made choices along the way. And so when I came, my whole family moved to the US in 1978, and I moved with them and wanted to continue. I had my bachelor's degree in economics and statistics from University of Cape Town, and then I wanted to continue my education in the US, and I applied to the only universities I had heard of from South Africa, but I ended up going to Princeton, which was a fantastic experience, and did statistics there, which also was not especially a women's field at that time. I think there's a lot more now.
Few more, yeah. Not.
And then I moved with my then not then husband, but now husband, to Baltimore. He got a job at Hopkins in the School of Public Health. And I was looking for something to do and stumbled into public health, which is just a fantastic field. I really encourage other young women to go into it because it's a way in which, you know, having grown up in South Africa, during the height of the apartheid era, I really wanted to do something with my life that would sort of improve social justice for people, if not for the people there, but for people
here.
Everywhere,
right.
And so when I came to public health, which I had no idea what it was before I stumbled on it, I sort of felt like I'd found my calling in that sense, that it was a way to sort of mitigate social justice.
Tell our audience a bit how you view or would define public health and how it does improve social justice.
Yeah, so it's different from medicine in the sense that you want to try to prevent people from getting sick. You would rather they remain healthy and try to keep them healthy. And it's sort of thinking not just about the individual and their health, but sort of thinking about the health of the whole population. So a really great example of this is something like fluoride in water to improve dental health for everybody. And things like improving the quality of the water and the safety of the water that we drink, for example, which we have a great example of this in Baltimore. Abel Wallman, who brought about, he was the first person who realized to chlorinate water and make it safe for drinking in cities and so on. So those are the kinds of things that, and vaccinations for children. So you prevent them getting the disease rather than having to treat them once they're sick. So the idea of public health that's so great about, and its connection to social justice, is that there are lots of people where if you can have these sort of big impacts like the fluoride or like changing the environment, improving the air quality, the water quality, you improve that for everybody. Right? So you could be poor, you can be rich, you can, that's something that it's a benefit. Yeah, it's a benefit that comes to everybody. It's not directed at the wealthy people who can come and get the treatment from this famous doctor or so and so. So that's the way in which I like to think about it. And, I think I've been very fortunate to be at Johns Hopkins in the School of Public Health for so many years, because we really have a very strong commitment to Baltimore City and to the communities around us, East Baltimore in particular, and trying to do things that will improve the health in those environments. So,
you mentioned the messages from your grandmother and your mother, and now that you're a mature professional, what messages would you share with young women or young men, but about career, life, contribution? What would your message to them be? Yeah, so, I'm very fortunate to be also an educator, not just a researcher. So I do work with young people, well, it's more people in their 20s, because it's a graduate school. And so I have a lot of conversations with especially young women, because they seek me out because they're interested in, how can you have a family? And in particular, how can you... So I do a lot of global health. How can you travel and have children? And, and I always tell them that, it's important to really be invested and feel strongly that this is a calling. It's not just a job. It's more than that. But also to pick a good partner, and somebody who I've always felt very supported in my life in the roles that I've been playing professionally, and my children also have been. I have 2 boys, and I actually took them with me to work show them the work that I do overseas, and that must have been quite a learning experience. Yeah, I took one to Bangladesh and one to Nepal, and it totally changed their life, because they got to see that they were very privileged, and that the world is not like what you know here. And I think it really did change that for them. And I hope that I can do the same for, the other people that I educate. And, I really feel that it's important to feel strongly about what you do, and that it has value to society. And also that you can do it. As a woman, you can do it. You just need to think carefully, you need to plan well, and you need to choose good people to help support you in it. What do you think your sons learned when they went to either Nepal or Bangladesh, other than the privilege part? You said it changed their life. What message came to them, do you think, about that, and how do they carry that with them, or what do they tell their friends about what their mom does? So I think that was the other part of it. So one was sort of, I'm a privileged person, and there are lots of things you could do in the world to improve things for other people. But I think I do think they were proud of the fact that, I think children love to see what their parents do for a living, and surprised, aren't they? Yeah, they often are surprised. And I think that they've actually found the travel interesting, and sort of learning about other cultures and being sensitive to differences between people, and that it's difference and diversity are valued. So I think that was another thing that I felt like they got from that experience. Of the women in your life, or either as students or as mentors or mentees, what was probably one of the strongest message, other than you can do it? I've heard you mention that several times. Was there ever any time when you had to go to your mentor to sort of help keep you going in that track, or? Yeah, that's a good question. So, I think certainly my family always said, emphasized the value of education, and that education should be for everybody. And so women should have equal access to education, and that it's something that nobody can take away from you, that you could sort of take it with you wherever you go, whereas material things you might have one day and not the next.
But then I think also, as I went through my career and, you're sort of trying to make your way in your career, there were definitely times, and so there's, a couple of people, one of who is in the Maryland Women's Hall of Fame, Edith Schoenrick, who is now 96. She still comes to work every day.
Wow.
Her mind is fantastic, and she was always a person that I would always sort of think to myself, I just want to be like her. If I can, and I still feel that way. If I can be like her, I hope I can get to 96 and be like her. But somebody who's always thinking to contribute, and so when you sort of see people like that are that sort of blaze the trail before you, you kind of feel that. I want to be like that. I can do it, and those people are always extremely encouraging.
So you have a lot of role models in your past.
Definitely.
And then there are some that you're modeling for now.
I hope so.
We're going to
I
see
hope
some
so.
great women coming.
Yes. And I was very excited to see, all these young women that are going to be here today. And I feel, I think the biggest thing that needs encouraging for young women today is the idea that you can do both. You can have a fulfilling personal life, you can have a family life, and you can make serious and important contributions to society. I really feel strongly about that, and I think sometimes women feel today that they can't do that. And I really hope that I encourage them and I can sort of show them that it is possible.
It's hard work, of course.
It's hard work, yes,
and
it definitely is.
Persistence, but it's doable.
Right, and I have to say that I have with me here this evening my husband, but also Linda Copeland, who was the lady who looked after my children when I went to work. And she looked after them from the time my oldest son was 6 months old. And she's like our third parent. So I always think about her when I'm going to thank her, because I think it's hard to do if you don't have somebody that you trust that'll look after your children when they're little.
One of the other inductees said has a similar kind of additional parent that she's recognizing as well, because it was another person in the home. Now, clearly in the medical field, it took resources to do that. And, But again, that was part of the plan, that you as a family determined that that's just how you made it happen.
Right.
So anyway, thank you so much for all your messages and so for your stories.
Thank you.
And we congratulate you again on being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And
thank
enjoy
you
your
so
evening.
much for the interview and
sure.
interesting questions.
Sure. And we'll be right back.
Great.
And I am delighted to introduce to you the Mistress of Ceremony and the Queen, Annapolis City Alderman Sheila Burleson. Sheila is an educator, community activist, city legislator, and honors us tonight with her presence. Sheila. Thank you. Good evening. How's everybody? It's a pleasure to be with you. And Wanda, thank you for that introduction. This is such a special occasion, so it truly is a pleasure for me to be your Mistress of Ceremony this evening. I have to put on my glasses because I'm of that age. Every year in March, we recognize women whose achievements are historic in significance and whose accomplishments help us to advance the rights of women and girls. Each year in June, the Commission of Women has recognized girls in middle and high school with records of academic achievement, outstanding leadership, and extraordinary community service. Tonight, for the first time, these two programs have joined together for a single honoring of women and girls. Tonight, we will induct 6 amazing women into the Maryland Women's Hall of Fame, and we will award 5 young women, future leaders, every one of them, as Maryland Women of Tomorrow. Generations of excellence, a legacy of leadership. That's the theme of the evening's event. This year's Hall of Fame honorees have made extraordinary contributions in a variety of disciplines, including public service, medicine and dental health, aviation, women in the military, community service, and literature. These exceptional women have paved the way for all who will follow, and we are here tonight to pay tribute to them and to thank them for their hard work and dedication. We're also here to recognize the next generation of leaders, our women of tomorrow, who have already demonstrated their talent and their accomplishments and their dedication to service, even at such young ages. And we want to honor these students for their hard work and to encourage them to continue that journey to excellence. But first, I'd like to introduce you to another extraordinary woman. Lee Batu is chairman of the Women Commission, the Maryland Commission of Women. Lee?
Thank you, Alderwoman. And welcome, everyone. I am so proud to lead the Maryland Commission for Women in its work to advance the status of Maryland women and girls. There are so many distinguished guests with us this evening. Ms. Jeannie Hathaway-Richelieu, Deputy Chief of Staff, is representing Brown and Hogan this evening. Ms. Hathaway-Richelieu, thank you so much for joining us. We have representatives from Senator Mikulski, Senator Hardin, and Congressman Ben Hollen, and they have representation. And if you'd like to come and say a few words, you're welcome to come and say a few words.
Thank you. Good evening. It's an honor to be here on behalf of Senator Mikulski, so I just would like to share some remarks with you from her. Greetings to the members and guests of the Maryland Commission for Women as you gather this evening to celebrate this year's inductions into the Maryland Women's Hall of Fame and the Maryland Women of Tomorrow. Congratulations to all of tonight's outstanding honorees. I put a high value on this recognition and treasure my own induction into the Hall of Fame in 1988. Throughout the history of this great nation, women have been trailblazers, using grit, passion, and determination to seize the day and make a difference. The rich history of American women includes Harriet Tubman, Sally Ride, Lily Ledbetter, Rosa Parks, Helen Keller, Amelia Earhart, and the suffragettes, and Rosie the Riveter. I could go on and on, but instead I will say that we must not only honor the past and these amazing women before us, but we must also learn from it. Every time I step onto the Senate floor, I remember that one of my biggest priorities is women and families. And until the day that I leave the Senate, I will continue to fight. From equal pay and affordable access to child care, to making sure that women who have served in the military are receiving the same benefits and recognition. Friends, I never dreamed of being a U.S. Senator, and I'm so humbled by the opportunity I have been given. I'm honored to share the Senate with 19 other women, and I hope to see even more in the future, maybe even some of Maryland's women of tomorrow. I stand on the shoulders of those who came before me and hope to have blazed a trail for those in the future. Thank you for including me in this uplifting event. It is always an honor to work with you to keep the dream of America alive for all of our daughters. Sincerely, United States Senator Barbara Mikulski.
Senator Cardin is very sorry that he can't be here tonight to join you, but I am very honored to represent him. He often says that empowering women is one of the most important things we can do for the future of our country, and that the way a nation treats its women will very much be a barometer as to how well that nation is doing, how well they are doing with economic growth, and how stable their government. Senator Cardin has worked to ensure that gender equity is a priority. He is the lead Senate sponsor of a joint resolution to remove a timetable for ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. He strongly believes that an arbitrary deadline for state ratification of the ERA cannot stand in the way of equal rights for women. From his earliest days in elected office, Senator Ben Martin has shown a willingness to stand up and fight for women's rights. He is proud of his record and looks forward to the opportunity to extend it in the years to come. He knows that there is much progress still to be made in order for women to receive the full and equal benefits of citizenship that they deserve. He will continue working to close the wage gap, protect reproductive rights, and promote equal protection and opportunity for all Americans. As a proud husband, father, grandfather to strong women, he has asked me to extend his congratulations and thanks to the work that the women and girls here that are being honored tonight.
Thank you, Lee. Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen McManus from Congressman Ben Hollen's office. Congressman Ben Hollen sends his warmest regards to everyone, and particularly to the honorees this evening, the Hall of Fame and the Women of Tomorrow honorees. Congressman Ben Hollen has been honored to join with Senators Mikulski and Cardin and the other members of the Maryland delegation to fight every day since he's been in Congress in 2003 and before, when he was in the General Assembly, in the House of Delegates, and in the Senate, to fight for the equal rights for women and for the things that women care about: choice, a good education for our children, child care, pay equity, and he will continue to do that. So thank you very much for having me, and he sends his warmest regards, and he does have congressional citations that he has prepared and asked us to give for each of the honorees. So thank you.
Our next honoree is Dr. Joanne Katz, who has made extraordinary contributions to the field of public health, blindness prevention, maternal and child health. She is a professor of international health with joint appointments in biostatistics, epidemiology, and ophthalmology at the Johns Hopkins Bloomsburg School of Public Health. A statistician and epidemiologist, Dr. Katz has made significant contributions to the health of children and the elderly in Maryland and Baltimore City through her research in eye disease. While her research focused primarily on those underserved in Baltimore, its results will have impacts across the nation and around the world. Dr. Katz's research in Asia and Africa has sought to find affordable interventions for micronutrient deficiencies, infectious diseases, and poor reproductive outcomes for pregnant women, teens, and children. Her work has contributed to the design and content of global health training programs. She has won awards for her teaching skills, including the Johns Hopkins Alumni Knowledge for the World Award, and is the president of the Faculty Senate of the Bloomsburg School of Public Health. And she chairs the Institutional Review Board to protect the rights of research subjects in our state and around the world. Dr. Katz, it is our honor to induct you this evening into the Maryland Women's Hall of Fame.
I know it's a long evening, so I'm going to try to be brief. But I really am very honored to be here this evening, and it's really a touching ceremony. So I wanted to first thank the Maryland Women's Commission for honoring me this way, for the selection committee. I know selection committees are very hard work, so thank you so much for doing that work, and for the organizers of this event. I wanted to start, when I thought about where do I come from and who do I thank, I thought first of my parents, particularly my mother, who was a lawyer at a time when women didn't do that kind of profession, but my father as well, and both of them felt that education was very important, and that it was as important for women as it was for men, and that it was something you took with you wherever you went in the world. And so I am very pleased to have a career in education and to be able to affect the lives of so many women and young men as well. I think that that's a really lovely sort of profession to have. I would also like to thank my mentors, in particular Batu who's here this evening, and also Kate O'Brien, who nominated me. When you have great mentors, you can do many things. And I hope that I can be that way for others as well. And for the young women coming forward, look for good mentors. It really makes a difference in your life. And then I want to thank my family. My husband is here this evening. It's very hard to have a career where you work hard and long hours, and particularly for me, where I work overseas a lot of the time, without having a partner and children who are supportive of what you do and who help you make that happen. So thank you very much to you. And then I want to also thank Linda Copeland, who's here this evening, because she's my third parent. And when I went to work every day, she would look after my children. And it was really wonderful to know that there was a person who I felt really comfortable. My children were safe, and they've grown up to be lovely young men. And she really was responsible for that so much. So thank you. And then finally, the kind of work that I do is really with populations and communities and involved with their health and improving their health. And I really want to thank all the communities that I've worked with over many years, those in Baltimore City, in Maryland, but also the women in Nepal, for example, where I've been working since 1988. These are all people who have provided a lot of support, who have given their time and effort in order to improve the health not only of themselves, but of many other women and their children as well. So I really appreciate this honor this evening and thank everybody for making this happen. Thank you.